Does green mean equal? Not really. At COP29, the Global Climate Summit underway in Baku, Azerbaijan, trade unions, women's rights, and climate justice campaigners are protesting the lack of focus on gender at the ongoing summit.
It is the women of our communities that pay that price. Why is gender justice important? Why is gender justice important? Because when you dig that stuff out of the ground and when you expose those chemicals to our communities, it is the feminine body that has to absorb that. It is the reproductive system that has to absorb that. Why is gender justice important? Why is gender justice important? Why? Because we can't have climate justice without gender justice.
Climate justice campaigners at COP29 said they are not hopeful. And why is that? I'm joined by Roli Srivastava, who is the regional president of the International Trade Union Confederation and comes from Pakistan. She was just chanting gender justice slogans when I saw her at the venue, surrounded by women leaders from across the world.
Hi, this is Dore. I'm from International Trade Union Confederation, and we are together here at COP29. Today we are holding a protest against gender injustice because many of the countries refuse to put the human rights language in the final text, and which is really pushing gender agenda back for all of us. And today all the constituencies are together and they are protesting against the use of insufficient language by different countries. And as we have witnessed, the real time challenges on the ground, from heat wave to the floodings, and of course it is not only affecting the daily needs of livelihoods, but also affecting the women and also the way of increasing gender-based violence. And it's also affecting more women because when there is a displacement, of course, internal and external, and because of that, a lot of migration is also happening because of the changing weather patterns and all that. So we have to take forward this because the women are nowhere in the economy and documented as anywhere in the economic documentations. So we are demanding at the women workers also that where are the women workers, because mostly are missing in the coal and energy sectors also. And of course, if the displacement is happening like either internal or external, where are the migration policies, where is the gender and the climate and the migration intersectionality? So we need to make them understand that it is not only a women's issue, it's a humanitarian issue also, and we need to bring women on tables.
What's your expectation from COP29?
Well, with all this text and language, I am just hoping useless document again, frankly speaking. But from, of course, when you do not include everyone in the decision-making process, it is indeed not a friendly or inclusive document.
Hi, I am Roli Srivastava, climate journalist and founder of The Migration Story. I am in Baku, Azerbaijan on a cross-border energy transition reporting fellowship offered by Clean Energy Wire and the Stanley Center for Peace and Security to cover COP29, the Global Climate Summit. So what exactly happened at this COP29 that has women so disillusioned? I asked gender expert Lorena Aguilar, who has been part of gender negotiations and gender action plans.
My name is Lorena Aguilar. At present, I am the executive director of the Kashak Institute that is at Binghamton University. It's part of the SUNY system, that is the system of the universities of New York. For more than 40 years, I have been working on the sector of gender and environment. Women were not even a constituency when we started, and we were able, after 2008, to have women as a constituency within the framework of the Climate Change Convention. 29 countries worldwide have developed climate change gender action plans. So we have walked. And we have seen some evolvement. Unfortunately, in the last report of the Secretariat, women's participation is not there. Also, it talks about including gender considerations in the projects on the ground. You're talking about the green transition. Now, Roli, green doesn't mean equal. Green doesn't mean that gender equality is being embraced. There's a lot of people that think, oh, if we're green, we're already including social justice. No. The majority of the sectors that we have, for example, in the works that are being created in the processes towards low emissions, are in the hands of the men. So women have been out of STEM, of the science, technology, the economy, mathematics, what we call STEM. So they'll have to make a big push to get there, to be part of this transition. They're not being heard, they're not being seen. And what we have seen in this last week is a lack of interest, of recognizing the value of 4 billion people. I mean, disregarding the potential of half of the world's population is not merely illogical. It's utterly absurd. We provide solutions. Women are not only vulnerable to climate change, you're seeing them at the forefront, inoculating plants to make them resistant to droughts in Iran. You see them working in Morocco on drought-prone areas with new techniques. So we're not only the vulnerable suffering of climate change, but there is a lot. I mean, yes, women, vulnerability is socially constructed, Roli. It's not something that comes in our genes. It has been socially constructed without access to education, without access to goods and services, to technical capacity, because we don't own the land, we're not invited, etc., etc., etc. So to see that the gains of the past years are being threatened by a handful of countries is not acceptable. As I said, this is a misstep that we simply cannot afford.
While the sense of despair is all pervasive among gender campaigners here, there have been several discussions on climate justice, green workforce at this COP. So are they hoping for any forward-looking solutions to emerge from the summit?
I'm Kalyani Raj, and I'm the president of All India Women's Conference. Our head office is in Delhi, but we have nearly 500 branches across India, and we work with the strength of our members who are volunteers. All of us are volunteers, and we are primarily working on socio-economic empowerment of women. And we are sort of integrating a lot of awareness activities into that, because there are a lot of cross-cutting issues which impede empowerment. So we are working on that: capacity building, awareness generation, and skill development, and violence against women, all those issues in India.
Right. Tell us first about the organization that you are a part of, and how long has it been coming to COP?
Okay, All India Women's Conference got observer status with UNFCCC in 2013, but we have been coming from around 2011. We have a partner, InfoSay. We are the founder partner with that. So earlier we used to come under their badge, but in 2013 we got our own observer status, and so we have been coming from then. I think except for the COVID years, we have been coming almost every year.
For some of
we are also part of Women and Gender Constituency. I've been, in fact, co-focal point for the southern countries before 2 years. Till last year, I was in the facilitative committee, and that's it. We have been working on the gender integration issue at the global level as well as at India.
That's impressive. So you're a COP veteran. You have been coming to COPs for more than a decade now. So what has changed in terms of gender focus at COPs, in terms of women labor force participation? Is there enough dialogue? Is there enough investment on these subjects?
I won't say much about investment, but yes, progress. Yes, I think in Doha we had the first time gender balance, the term included in that, and then we had the Lima Work Program, which was again improvement. Then we had GAP, Gender Action Plan. So again, there was some progress throughout, but then I believe. I think, I mean, I haven't followed the negotiations so much last 2 years, but there has been a stagnation point now, and there is some amount of backtracking, which is sort of not good. So we are looking at the Women and Gender constituency. We are looking at all those issues. In fact, today is the Gender Day, and they are going to raise all those issues during their action and during their events.
Right. It would be interesting for our listeners to understand what these dialogues mean on the ground. Like, there are, because a COP is usually seen by a lay reader, by most people, as a climate conference that's happening in some corner of the world.
Yeah.
How does it link to our ground reality, to the challenges that we face on the ground, and how does it help in tackling those challenges, if you could explain that?
I won't say much is filtering down there, because it also has to be filtering down first at the national level, at the national climate change policy level, and then we can sort of take it at the state level, at the ground level. But not much has been done. Like we had done a project on urban climate change policy in India in 4 cities, and so we found there were a lot of gaps in that as well, and we had identified those gaps and challenges the women face due to their traditional gender roles and responsibilities, which are not integrated or mainstreamed into the climate change policy. So that's most important. When we include the voices of women, when we include the gender consideration, and when the policy is gender sensitive, I think then only we can do something more about it.
I also want to understand that because we are focusing on green skills a lot at this COP, I see a lot of sessions. Is that something, is that a dialogue that's leaving out gender, or do you think that's well integrated? The creation of a green workforce for a green future?
I don't think much gender is included in that from what I hear, because in the area like energy, where women are the main focal the energy, they are the major part of the domestic energy users as well as providers, and how much of women's voices are included in that, I doubt really, which I think they should, because they will be probably giving much better ideas with their traditional knowledge sometimes. So energy transition is one area where I think women's voices should be included, and of course almost every area, if we have the perspective from the gender view as well, I think that would really help. That would make the policies more gender sensitive.
Right. I want to understand one thing, ma'am, that there are a lot of renewable energy projects coming up in India. It's a new sector, new industry sector.
Yeah.
You are you represent women workers, women workforce. Is there inclusion of women in skill upgradation to be eligible for these jobs? Do you see any of those efforts? And if there are skill councils, training centers, which are training both men and women, but do you see the need for more, or do you see what are the gaps that you may have identified to get more women into this workforce?
Yeah, actually before coming here we had a meeting with MNRE, and this is exactly what we were talking about, including women as solar panel manufacturing, training and all those things, because those are essential. And I believe there has been some study recently where they said that the women workforce work much better even in those areas. And of course there are 1 or 2 organizations which are completely using women power to in making all the solar powers, and even I think setting them up and all, but we are trying to venture into that as well.
Right. Thank you so much. So just last thoughts on your expectations from this COP, and are you hopeful of something, or do you think it's going to be another climate dialogue without much resonance on the ground?
I think the latter part what you said goes more with my thoughts.
Though not hopeful, maybe Kalyani Raj's meeting on women workers in green skills with the Ministry of Renewable Energy is still a bright spot. But the challenges, say campaigners, outweigh opportunities. Abdus Salam is from a Bangladesh non-profit that works with flood-impacted communities. He tells me that he finds women missing from the ongoing discussions at the summit.
My name is Abdus Salam. I am working for an organization called Gano Unnayon Kendro, GUK. Is it in Bangladesh? So basically, we are working for the adaptation, especially the people and women living in the vulnerable areas in Bangladesh, especially flood and other natural disasters. So we are working with them. But in this COP29, actually the discussion is going on. Sometimes it's really not specific for the women, especially who are the vulnerable most. So that's I found here. So that the women are facing lot of problems, especially in the disaster-prone areas. So that's why we need to talk, especially for the women and children and the ethnic minority who are sufferer most.
Right. Is there any attention being given to skilling women for a green future? And what is the risk if this does not happen now? If these discussions do not happen now, what is the risk of the future now?
Actually, mostly the women, they are the sufferer lot. So that we expect this COP29 will raise the voice of the women, and what they are facing, they address the women's issues. They address the problems of the women that we expect. But still we didn't found much of the discussion of the women especially. We found, a lot of discussion is happening there. But finally we are taking the decisions, so that's not actually implementing
on the
ground. Yeah.
Right.
So
right.
we don't know what will happen after this COP. Yeah.
You have any hopes?
We always, hoping.
What is that one thing that you hope should happen?
We always hope, the countries who are producing the lot of the gases, so that they will compensate the people are living in the vulnerable countries. Yeah.
Any gender-specific action you are seeking from?
Always we seek for the gender-specific actions, because the most of the people, if we think about the Bangladesh, so it's about 50% of the women. So they are suffering a lot. So that's why we need, even if there is any disasters, women become more vulnerable. So we actually expect the special action for the women, especially in the adaptation. Yeah.
Today is Gender Day at COP. There are sessions and meetings lined up aligned with the gender theme. But campaigners are largely disappointed with the summit. Thank you for joining the Migration Story podcast. I thank all our guests on this particular podcast, which we recorded in Baku, Azerbaijan.
The Migration Story.